there's a linebacker that's showing out, and it's a really good thing that he is in fall camp. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, the linebacker core is deep, but there's been one player that's been really, really standing out in fall camp, and it's a really good thing that he is showing up and showing out because you need somebody to take the reins next to Danny Stutzman, especially with Danny Stutzman heading off to the NFL in 2025, and that's Kip Lewis. Kip Lewis has gotten himself up to 220 pounds, no longer playing as a safety, as a linebacker. He looks ready to go and have his own breakout season in 2024.
Yeah, one of the big concerns I had with him was the weight. And I said that all last season, that if Kip gets himself up in size, man, he's going to be a problem. And then last season, he shut me up. Whenever he got in the game, he was out there leveling folks and he was playing some good football. And so I was like, oh, okay, my bad. My apologies. I'm completely wrong here. And so I'm very high on the Kip train, seeing and hearing that he's really showing out in fall camp. And he's one of those players he's stepped up a lot. And I'm loving to hear that. So now you have configurations where you can mix Danny Stutzman with if you have him with Kip to start, and then if you need to swap somebody out, you still have two guys that can really lead that defense, especially because the linebacker position is so critical. So you can mix a Kip with the Kanik. You can mix a Kobe with the Stutzman, right? You can bring in Lewis Carter and have him in there interchanged. Now you've got multiple configurations with linebackers to where we don't have to worry about everybody trying to get 800 snaps in the season. We're comfortable with everybody getting 300 to 400, keeping their body fresh. So if we do make a playoff run, we've got the bodies to do it.
Yeah, it's a deep group, and it's a diverse and versatile group, I think, as well, in that you've got big dudes like Stutzman and Kobe McKenzie who you can deploy in a lot of different situations, rundowns, short yardage situations. But guys like Kip Lewis, Jaron Kanik, Lewis Carter, Sam Omasigo, like those are uber athletes as well. Mm-hmm. And you can put them out there in a lot of situations. We saw in the goal line stand against Texas, I know we keep hearkening back to that, and that 4 downs where they stopped Oklahoma or stopped Texas short of the goal line. Kip Lewis's ability to knife into the backfield, and we saw it throughout the 2023 season. But that innate ability, this instinctual ability to knife into the backfield, I think it kind of overplayed some of the size issues that he dealt with. Now, there were certain times where you saw the size disadvantage creep up, but he's kind of gotten that taken care of, and he's continuing to keep the speed and the athleticism to the forefront as well. I think you're absolutely right. We're not going to see a situation like we saw in 2022 where you have 3 linebackers play almost 1,000 snaps each in Stutzman, Deshaun White, and David Agwebu during that disastrous of a 2022 season. No, Zach Alley, Brent Venables, they're going to be able to keep these guys fresh and get them a lot of playing time and a lot of experience as they rotate that linebacker group. Beyond Stutzman, beyond Kip Lewis, who would you say are going to be the 2 guys that would be next in that rotation?
I'm looking at Kobe McKenzie and Lewis Carter, right? Been hearing that Kobe has been coming in at the Mike position and he's ready to run things, and you could bring in a Lewis Carter in at will and let him just go level folks. The Crimson Missile can go hit some people. But then you still got to mix in a little Kanik, right? So it sounds like he's starting to get it. The calls are starting to click. The locations to be at is starting to click. And the best part about having a player like Kanik is when you play against a team with a super mobile quarterback, maybe like an Alabama with like Jalen Milroe, something of that nature, or even Sellers, the quarterback at South Carolina, you could throw Kanik out there and let him be the spy. The quarterback's not going to outrun him. Like, he's a track dude, right? Mm-hmm. He's like running like a 10-4 in the 100. So he's fast enough to keep up with anybody out there. If he's figuring it out and where he's not going to the wrong spot super fast and he's just putting himself in the right positions, man, he'd be great for just the spies as you get him going. But I'm seeing a Kobe McKenzie, Lewis Carter setup, and man, it's going to be fun. And then you talk about Cheetah, right? I mean, Omosigo mixed in with Kendall Dobie. Dobie's your best probably coverage guy at the nickel spot. And at Cheetah, and then you can bring in Omosigo, who can play not only linebacker, but also does well in coverage. Whew. That room is going to be fun to watch next season.
Yeah, and I think it's easy also to kind of take for granted what Danny Stutzman does, but he is so good. And another first-team All-American selection by USA Today Sports, along with a guy like Harold Perkins and then an Iowa linebacker. I mean, I think we're going to see the full culmination of who Danny Stutzman is this year. As much as he's shown and as good as he's been, I think we're about to see the best version of Danny Stutzman as, again, he stays fresh because they're able to rotate linebackers, but also because it's now year 3 for him in this defense. It's year 4 of college football. He's played a ton. He's seen it all at this point. So you're going to be very unlikely to fool Danny Stutzman at this point in his career. And that experience matters. Even the mistakes that have been made by him, by other guys on the defense, all that stuff's going to matter. And now we're going to see it all come together. I mean, in the scrimmage, he had a 95-yard pick six that Teddy Lehman didn't even mention on the Oklahoma breakdown or talk about very much because he was doing so many other things really, really, really well. So if we can kind of underrate a pick six because everything else is going great for the guy, I think it just shows you the trajectory that he's on and the Butkus, the Nagurski, all these watch lists that he's falling on. It's reasonable to consider that he might actually be a finalist for some of these by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, there's a very good chance with as many snaps as we expect that Stutzman's going to play, right? I mentioned that the hope is you don't have them playing, 400 or 500 snaps, 600 snaps. I think he played like almost 7 last year, if not more. You want to get them less because you want his body to be ready to play in deep in the season, especially making a playoff run. But no, if he ends up playing enough, I can definitely see a Butkus award. I see 120 tackles. He's the one linebacker that we have no fear or no concerns about, right? We know that Stutzman's going to go out there and get the numbers, and he's going to get there. Maybe we can leverage him a little bit in some blitzes, get him some sacks to go with that. That would look great on the resume. And, pick sixes is something that he definitely likes to do. He's gotten one every season so far that he's started. So let's see if we can keep the streak going.
That's right. Got to keep that streak alive. And then beyond him, I think the future is just really, really bright beyond 2024 because even when Stutzman goes off to the NFL in 2025, you're going to have Kip Lewis. You're going to have, Jaron Kanik and Lewis Carter and Sam Omosigo, Phil Picciotti, James Nesta is going to be a part of that group. And then, it's just continuing to evolve. That's why that 2023 recruiting class was so important to get all these guys in the 2022 class as well, because it helped establish that depth that you're now carrying into the SEC. But I think the other reason the linebacker group is going to be so much better this year than it was last year, even though they were really good last year, is because of the improved defensive line play, in particular, the improved defensive tackle play, which we saw, we talked about on our last episode, but you improve those guys in the middle and it keeps those linebackers cleaner longer and for more plays, and they're not having to battle guards at the second level. They're going to be able to get into the backfield, get out into the flats, and make a whole lot more plays on defense.
I agree. That's all we need.
That's all we need. That's it. It's all coming together for Oklahoma's defense. Get ready for an elite group led by the Stutzman himself. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Right now, I'm really loving Oklahoma's line against Temple in week 1 at minus 42.5. I know there have been some rumblings about the offense not really, putting it together so far in fall camp, but squash that noise. Temple is not keeping it within 45 points of Oklahoma in week 1. So if you're looking to do a little betting, get over to FanDuel at FanDuel.com. Again, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.